What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone. Again, this time we got Juan of EvilDead and Body Count. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you, Alex. Glad to be here.
It's so awesome to have you here. It's fair to say you've had a very busy 2020 and 2019, despite, the world being what it is, because we had the new Body Count album, but now we're finally getting a new EvilDead album, United States of Anarchy. Could the first single you released, The Descending, almost serve as like a clear representation of what the entirety of this album is going to sound like?
I would say today we just released a new song called Word of God. It's up on, it's up on all the social platforms and available on iTunes. I think that's a better representation of the record. But the Descending is definitely there. The weird thing about that song is it almost has like three choruses, in my opinion, and it may, it's a cool track and all. I just think Word of God is a little stronger song. We just wanted to release the Descending first because it was just more of a topic going on right now with the election and everything.
Yeah.
So I would say the new track, Word of God, has a better representation of the whole album.
It's really cool, and what a very appropriate time to be releasing this album. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, is it fair to say that, with the state of the world and everything that we're living in right now, that played a major role in the influence of the music itself?
Well, this is going to be strange, but it's kind of, but not. We didn't plan it that way. For example, the album artwork itself, that concept we had back in the 90s, it was taken from a movie called Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston way back then. And, I had this idea for Ed Repka to do a cover like that back in the 90s. It's weird how it all came down to now, and and a lot of these lyrics were penned back in the 90s as well, believe it or not. So it just kind of, some kind of Nostradamus effect. It's not really planned, but it is current.
Yeah. So did these songs change a lot over a span of time, being that it's been a while, or is what we're hearing maybe the first initial take of how this all sounds?
No, the songs, very little, maybe very little. No, not really. The lyrics are exactly the same. A couple lines, of course, that were updated, on a song called Without a Cause. Some of the lyrics were updated a bit because, there wasn't Twitter back then. So, and there's a part on there that talks about Twitter and stuff like that. So a little bit, but for the most part, it's all intact. And we're very excited to be dropping this new album here in 2 weeks.
Yep. I know what I'll be listening to on Election Day. I could tell you that much.
Thank you so much for that.
Being that, I think it's fair to say, and, obviously don't judge a book by its cover and judge a book by its title either, but this is clearly a political charged record. When it comes to writing music that could almost be politically influenced, is there a lot of research that goes involved? Are you looking at certain media outlets, or do you tend to write from maybe your own personal experiences?
It's a combination of both. For EvilDead, we've had in the past and on this record as well, we've had some outside writers. This guy named Bob Rangel who contributed lyrics to the Annihilation record, and on this record he contributed lyrics as well. So I would say it's a little both. Of course, you got to do your research, but you got to also keep it real and keep it by experience. What affects stuff around us.
Yeah, and because it's funny too, what I've always wondered about music that is very politically charged is because there's been a lot of politically charged music of many different styles. Is there a specific reason why the style that EvilDead is, that you feel is the best style of music to almost kind of get the point across?
Yeah, it's just kind of how it happened when we first formed the band. I had left Agent Steel, and one of the other members of the band at the time had left Abbotsford, and we wanted to create something a little more just more intense and more heavy and more influences by punk and hardcore mixed with metal. It's kind of like that New York hardcore sound, bands like Crumbsuckers and Discharge and stuff like that. So we just it's more street. For sure, the music's definitely more street, more politically charged and thought provoking on the lyrics side for sure.
Yeah, like what's funny is just because you mentioned that, like, I've never understood how like hardcore and punk and like metal had like so many differences from each other. Like I thought like bands like Slayer or Iron Maiden or Metallica were just as brutally honest and brutally raw as, you know, Agnostic Front or Cro-Mags or Sick of It All. Like what do you think is really like the main distinction between hardcore and metal?
I think it's the attitude, you know. You mean the differences, distinction? Or
Yeah.
just the differences, yeah, that's a good question. Well, as far as metal, guitar-wise, they seem to be more of, you know, theory involved, but I don't want to say the word theory. You know, like, for example, a lot more guitar harmonies in metal, I would say, with guitar-wise. And then with hardcore, it's just more about attitude and just, you know, crunch and heaviness. And just the message, really. So we like the message of hardcore music implemented in our styles of music.
Yeah, because I remember my first hardcore show, and I will admit that maybe wearing a Bullet for My Valentine hoodie at an Agnostic Front concert was probably not my best idea. Thank God Danny Diablo was there to save my ass. But I remember like seeing Agnostic Front for the first time and just being blown away. But I like got the same fulfillment that I would go to see at like an average metal show. So like I never understood. Obviously, I've noticed a different type of mosh pit, but that was like the biggest type of difference I've noticed.
Well, you know, there's room for all types of music. You know, it can all coexist together. There's no reason to divide at all, really. And to take influences from different styles of music is always welcome in our camp, that's for sure. And I encourage other musicians and listeners to keep an open mind when it comes to any type of music.
Definitely. I mean, I've noticed now I've been having a discussion a lot with a lot of artists about this. And like, you know, the future of music and everything. And a lot of them are saying that like the future is genreless.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I mean, a band like us, we'll always keep true to our thrash style in the EvilDead. But I can see where that thought process comes into play. I mean, yeah. In Europe, when they do these huge festivals, you know, they have all types of bands on different stages. You know, you can be watching ZZ Top, and then, you know, on another stage, Demon Borgir goes on. So it's crazy.
Yeah. I was at Louder Than Life Festival last year, and I saw Ice Cube play before Godsmack and Guns N' Roses, and the audience was equally engaged every single time.
Exactly. And, you know, and they've been doing this in Europe for so long, and I'm so glad that it's catching on here in America. I mean, it's been catching on for a while now. We just got to get more festivals. We got to get past this pandemic and get back to what matters, music.
Definitely. But I was saying, you know, all this isolation, this unrest, this anger, this anxiety is all phenomenal fuel for art.
I agree 100%. I mean, we already started thinking about writing more music, trying to stay creative. I think it's important to stay creative and positive. So we've been working on launching some new shirts, getting some designs ready. You know, anything you can do to stay working as far as in the mind, you know.
Definitely. Being such a prolific artist between EvilDead and Agent Steel, and I believe you played with Terror for a period of time, and of course Body Count, like, is there like a different mind frame depending on the project that you're involved with, or is there a usual like method behind the madness that applies to everything?
You know, Alex, when I started doing this, I never envisioned myself playing in a bunch of different bands or different projects and jumping around. My goal was just to be in one band and just write it out, you know, Slayer style, Metallica, Iron Maiden style, you know, just go for it. One of my biggest influences was Judas Priest, and, you know, KK Downing and Glenn Tipton weren't jumping around bands. It just kind of happened that way. You know, being in a band, sometimes it's a little difficult, and there's differences, and it just kind of worked out that way. I divide my time between, currently I'm just playing with Body Count and EvilDead. That's it. It's just really hard to, I know bands, members in other bands that do a lot of other stuff. That's not me, you know? So I would say I treat it equally. Um, it's not too difficult. You just got to be on top of your game and be focused, you know, and just practice your instrument and set your goals and you know, and stick to it.
Do you feel that maybe like being that both Body Count and EvilDead are both very politically charged and very raw and in your face, that maybe they have kind of, there's maybe like a similar energy or maybe a similar attitude that you channel into both of them?
Yeah, a little bit. Also, you got to understand, EvilDead's first record came out in 1989. The band was formed in 87. So I was already into this style of music, and I was a big fan of Body Count. And especially the first album and the second record, Born Dead. So, you know, being a fan of that band and now playing, you know, I joined in 2014. It was real natural for me. You know, the music was already in my mind. I knew what to do. I was friends with D-Rock and Ernie C, and so it was very natural progress for me.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think both are very brutally honest. And like what I loved about EvilDead is, you know, maybe this could just me being like a fan of your work, but like when you look at EvilDead's catalog and you look at Annihilation of Civilization to like The Underworld and this new album, I can almost like tell what song would be off of which album in a way. Do you almost in a way kind of look at these albums as maybe like a timeline of your personal life as well?
I never really thought about it that way, but I can see the similarities. What intrigues me a lot about the three records is the artwork, really. I mean, I've been a fan of Ed Repka's stuff for a long time. So it's kind of a cool progression, you know, you look out three records at once. Musically, the band's evolved a lot. I mean, obviously that's going to happen over time. But I think the new record, United States of Anarchy, is closer in style to Annihilation of Civilization than it is the Underworld. You know, it could almost be, the new record could almost be the second record, in my opinion. That just, for me, judging by the songs, that is.
It's funny you mentioned the artwork, because I remember, you know, I wasn't even born yet when Annihilation of Civilization came out. I was just getting into hardcore when I discovered it back in like the late 2010s. And like, I remember somebody suggested it to me and I saw that album artwork and like, you know, seeing like those guys in the bathing suits, like looking like zombies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Part of me like wondered like, oh, is this maybe, I thought maybe it could have been had like a comic effect behind it or it was some sort of like social commentary or something like that. But it's really cool how like the visual aspects, it seems like with EvilDead, it's a visual experience, it's a sonic experience, and really it's meant to kind of be just an experience like everything else, right?
Absolutely. That's the goal, you know. This style of music, thrash metal, you got to have the visual cover. You know, it's important. You know, back in the day, music came out on vinyl. You know, you had to have the artwork. It was important, and you had to have the lyrics. You know, then we went into the '90s with the CDs, and late '80s and '90s with everything shrunken down. You know, the artwork now is on a smaller, you know, square, 5.25 inch square. I mean, I miss the artwork experience, opening up the gatefolds and going and experiencing the whole aspect of music and the art.
Yeah. Do you think of this vision like sometimes like after the music is already written, or do you sometimes like have like a vision in mind already as you're creating the music?
Absolutely, it goes hand in hand, a little of both. You know, sometimes you get the idea as a vision of art, and then you work on the music. Sometimes you have the music, and then it's vice versa. It's connected for sure.
Now, with the music, though, like because especially with like a younger generation who may not be aware of social or political issues, like, do you sometimes can the music also still be open to interpretation?
We like to keep it that way. You know, we like to let the listener make up their minds. I know sometimes it doesn't seem that way in our music, but it's always cool for me as a listener. It's always cool when the artists do this, but you know, it's also good to just go straight for the throat and you know, tell it how it is. So it's a little of both.
Yeah, because
I like to have lyrics be interpreted. I remember back in the day meeting Rob Halford and speaking to him about the song Metal Gods and how cool the lyrics were, and asking him about it, and and he just kind of left it like it's their observation of life, and he didn't really try to explain it to me, and that always stuck with me in my mind. That was like, well, that's kind of cool way of talking about lyrics.
Yeah, because I remember one of the first political songs I've ever heard was "Killing in the Name" by Rage Against the Machine, and I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I wasn't aware of these social issues and about Rodney King, which that song was written about. I just was an angry little kid who interpreted that song as like a fuck you to my annoying kindergarten teacher. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Needless to say, I got in a lot of trouble for singing that in class.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I mean, see, a song written about Rodney King, and you interpret it to your kindergarten teacher. It's cool, man. I mean, that's an important thing to interpret how it is. With Body Count, I mean, obviously it's more socially, the commentary is to the point. Ice is prolific writer. We're more like CNN News, with EvilDead. We just, here it is, this is what's going on, and figure it out for yourself, and then we'll throw in our 2 cents of what we think what's going on in the message as well. So it's a little combo effect.
That's what I really loved about the United States of Anarchy. It was like short, quick, and to the point. I feel, one of my favorite songs on the album was Napoleon Complex. That song really just punched you right in the gut and pulled no punches. I loved Blasphemy Divine. I feel like it's in your face. You know what they're saying, but it's also wide open for you to kind of hit back at it with your own sort of perception.
Absolutely, Alex, you nailed it 100%. That was the goal. Doing these songs, I wanted to have a short record. I go, let's have songs that are short, to the point. I mean, nothing against long songs. Hey, man, I'm a big fan of 7-minute epic songs, 7-8 minutes, thrash epics. But with us, we just wanted to have it to the point, short, sweet, and just it is what it's going on now in the world of music. I feel that the attention span is a lot shorter. So with this style of music, I just want to hit them hard.
Yep. And you know what I've always loved about hardcore music? I've always said hardcore is like the dry cleaners. It gets better every time for the same service.
That's a good point, for sure.
Now, you ready for the most difficult question of the interview, since we talked about song lengths?
Yeah.
How do you know when a song is done?
How do I know this? You tell me.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Because I get a different answer for it every time. Some artists say, "Oh, when the label approves it," or when it's mixed.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So you're asking me.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. How do I know when a song is done? Shit. To me, it's when the final mix, because you could always mess with it till the very end, But I don't know if that was the answer you're looking for.
No, that was good enough, because sometimes you'll get an answer when it says everything it has to say, or when the band stops fighting over it, so.
Well, yeah, no, I've experienced all that, because you finish a song and then people want to rip it apart and change this, change that. So to me, a song is done when the final mix is done.
Definitely. That's usually also the easiest way. It's kind of like the most peaceful answer.
You're right.
Yep. Now, I've always thought that with both EvilDead and all the projects you're involved in, they attract many different audiences as well. Because you have the hardcore crowd coming out and appreciating the music. You have the metal crowd appreciating your music. You have people who are very politically active, appreciating this music. There was a couple, during the protests this year, in fact, I saw a couple cars driving by playing some Body Count. And, do you almost, have you noticed when you're on stage, you just see a great sense of community, and really just everybody is welcome at the shows that you play, right?
Absolutely, man. Especially with Body Count, touring Europe, I see that unity effect, and for sure, 100%. And the EvilDead shows that we've done here on the West Coast, it's just a lot of kids, a lot of younger audience, and they're just going mad, and it's really interesting how they know all the songs, from our back catalog. It's kind of a cool thing for sure.
Yeah, that art is the only life that I think is immortal.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I definitely see what you're saying there.
Definitely. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, as a songwriter and as a musician, in order to get like that inspiration, that creative energy, do you almost kind of need to be in a certain place at a certain time in order for the ideas to sort of flow through, or does inspiration sometimes strike when you least expect it?
Inspiration strikes when you least expect it, for sure. I mean, you could be sitting down. I like to, for example, a good way for me to come up with ideas. I'll be sitting, on a Sunday watching NFL, right? And I'll have my guitar with me, just practicing scales, and then all of a sudden, just some ideas will pop in, and or you could be asleep, all of a sudden you just hear this riff in your mind, or a pattern of notes that you want to put together. So it comes from anywhere, really. There's no rules.
Just inspiration. Hey, I gotta imagine that it sometimes strikes at like the most inconvenient times as well, right?
It could, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you could be driving, and then all of a sudden you got this guitar idea, a riff in your mind, and you're grabbing your phone to try to hum it out so you don't forget it. It's crazy. Yeah, the best thing to do is have a phone near you and just record the ideas, even if it's a shitty sound, even if you have to hum it out or whatever, because then you can always work on it.
It breaks my heart to think, because iPhones are still, if you really look at it, are very, very new. It breaks my heart and makes me so anxious to think, like in the 60s and 70s, when we've gotten some of the greatest classic rock songs, how many ideas were forgotten about and never dealt with.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I mean, I read a story, and I'm sure you read a story, where Kirk Hammett said he lost his iPhone.
Yeah.
He had 1,000 riffs on there. That's crazy, right? Yeah, I could see how that. In the 60s, they did record a lot, though, but I know what you mean, man. A lot of ideas were definitely lost.
Definitely. That's what I think happens with rock stars when we sadly lose them. They go to the rock and roll, like the archive of forgotten ideas.
Well, you know what? Eddie Van Halen, obviously, you know that he passed and stuff. I heard that he has a lot of stuff archived, a lot of music, and that's a great thing. He was the opposite. I think he recorded a lot of ideas.
Yeah, that guy. That is like, everybody says like, oh, there'll always be the next this or the next that, or there will never be another Van Halen. That guy was a talented individual, such a genuinely kind and loving human being. Like, there will never be another Eddie Van Halen, and I don't ever want to hear somebody say the next Eddie Van Halen. Right.
I mean, Eddie was one of a kind. I mean, growing up here in Los Angeles, them being from the Pasadena area originally, I never got to see them before they got big. When they played the Starwood and the Whiskey a Go-Go and places like that, and even places in Pasadena, small venues. But I was aware of them, and they just went big right away,
Yeah, and they were deserving of all of their success.
That first record is incredible.
Yeah, I think, and just actually the first time I've ever heard him actually was the solo he did with Michael Jackson when I was a little boy.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a killer solo, man. I read a story about Quincy Jones let him go free in the studio and not only play the solo, but rearrange the song and make it better. And Michael Jackson was really happy that Eddie just came in and kind of rearranged some parts around and made the song better. He was very thankful for that.
You had the king of pop and the king of heavy metal in one room together. So,
I know. Killer solo, by the way. It's a killer guitar riff and everything.
Yeah, I find myself fast forwarding to that solo every time now.
You're right.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Really great to talk to you, and congratulations on this brand new release. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it as well. Is there just anything else with EvilDead that you would like to promote? Obviously, thanks to the virus that shall not be named, obviously shows aren't happening at the moment, but can you maybe be taking EvilDead out on the road when all this is over, or maybe some live stream performances as well?
We're looking into the idea of doing some live streams. There's some locations out here on the West Coast that we can do these from. So we've entertain the thought. We just want to do it right. And I've seen some live streams, and I think if it's done right, it's effective. And it's important to at least do something. I mean, yeah, we're looking forward to hitting the road, but we're also looking into the possibility of at least doing 1 or 2 live streams to promote this album.
Will you be responsible for any furniture that gets broken in the house if you do it?
Absolutely not.
That's been my favorite. Somebody made a picture one time of like an apartment like just collapsing and like a comic bubble that says "sick riffs, bro" coming out of it. So.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, these live stream performances. There's going to be a whole new series of obstacles in the people's houses that come from that.
I can't wait to see the photos.
But thank you so much, Juan. Everybody, we are here with Juan of EvilDead and Body Count, United States of Anarchy, October 30th. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.